Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm here with my friend Elon Kaplan, who is the CEO of Cytegic. Welcome, Elon.
Thank you, Ed.
How's everything going? Business good?
Business is booming.
That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about Cytegic.
Cytegic focuses on one thing, which is cyber risk management. And the way we perceive risk is the correlation between the threat landscape of the bad actors out there and how they're relevant to the specific characteristics of your organization versus your security posture. And the biggest thing on security posture is to validate it. Not just to assume that I like my firewall, so it's good. No, I want to know to what extent it tells me that it's good. So by taking the information from the outside and the information from the inside and putting it together in a very intelligent machine that can really articulate the risk profile and the financial impact associated with this risk, you can make decisions as to remediation plans, as to cyber insurance, as to priorities, and even support your business in forecasting, in M&A activities, and what you're looking at down the road.
That's wonderful. You know, I'm so glad you're here because just about everybody is worried about third-party risk now. And I know you guys have been spending a lot of time there. I suspect a lot of people watching right now would probably list third-party risk as like the top risk, the whole firm. Tell us what you've been working on and help us with how you can actually reduce some of that third-party risk to the organization.
The biggest thing about third-party risk is manageability. Because if you're looking at large corporates, they're working with hundreds and thousands and sometimes more than that vendors. And the inherent risk from these vendors is hardly manageable. But the organizational boundaries are so transparent today that you're affected immediately by the characteristics of each and every one of them. Some of them could be as big as you, some of them are very small. So how do you manage this abundance of activity and data? In order to do that, you need to look at the world from both perspectives. Your perspective, that is, if I'm looking at the entire list of vendors or partners, how do I put them all in one big hub and integrate them into the categories of importance? Because not every one of them has the same importance. Some of them are just tied straight into the back end of your ERP or manufacturing processes. Some of them are just providing you the milk for lunch. So there are priorities, and each of them need to be assessed accordingly. Each of the vendors themselves need to be faced with something that is manageable also. A very quick and agile platform, short questionnaire that identify exactly what it means to them. But moreover, what do they get out of it? And we believe that the same service of getting a quick view of the risk they're faced with and how much each of your vendors need to insure themselves and what they need to do to better implement their security is part of the service that comes out of the back end of the system.
Interesting.
Back at the hub, now you're able to see exactly each of your clients or vendors or partners, to what extent they are fitting the profile that you want them to be, to what extent they are covered according to what your policy is. Do they really match what you expect, or do you want them to validate what they are saying about themselves, and what are the next action items? Now, all of the process is done on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual pace. Weekly update of intelligence. The world of bad actors is changing every day, but in order to make decisions, you need to see the trend. So weekly is enough. Monthly is how often do I want to have technical monitoring? So if it is a critical vendor, I want a monthly update of, just look at the Active Directory. You see about 130 indicators of maturity right out of that. So it's enough to sample a few configuration files and you know where you are. Quarterly, you want to see their feedback. Or if it's enough, do it on a yearly basis. But on a yearly basis, you have the full system. So by running it all on the cloud, you don't need to implement anything. You don't need to worry about manpower running the show. You begin to focus on the third-party risk and not about the administration of all the processes.
Let me ask, because I know this is an area that you guys do a good job at. When you're dealing with a third party and you ask them
Yes.
what they're doing, then they're going to respond in a way that, for the most part, they're not going to lie, but you know, if I ask you, you said, how's your firewall? You said, I like it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to probably do everything they can to tell me that they're doing things right. And maybe, you know, if it's in the middle, they're going to push it as far to the right as they possibly can. How do you validate that they haven't completely, you know, misrepresented something, maybe even innocently, right? I know many times I've filled out a questionnaire, and I'm busy. Is it, do you do this? And you go, I think so, yes, go and move on. You know, it's not malicious. But how do you deal with that problem with third parties?
There are two elements in the validation process. One is the likelihood, and the second is technical validation.
Yeah.
Likelihood is based on profiling. Because at the end of the day, if it is a 20 people workshop that is providing whatever, their WAF is not going to be the best in the market. It's either they can't afford it or they don't want it or whatever. So if you get 100% perfect deployment, you can be justly suspicious.
Yes.
But if you are talking about a big bank, for example, and they have a 100% compliance with whatever profile that you are expecting in the IPS IDS,
That's
okay,
probably okay.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
So by profiling, you get the likelihood of, let's say, bias. And it's okay to be biased, but when you lie through your teeth, there is a big difference.
Have you ever thought of putting a question in that you know the answer is going to be no? Like, do you formally prove the validity of every line of code in your and just to make sure they're not checking yes. Have you ever thought of that? Maybe you do that already.
Yeah, and we are borrowing it from psychology tests, you know, lie detectors.
Make sure some of them are no's. Yeah,
Yes.
you transpose to make sure you're paying attention,
Exactly.
right? Oh boy.
But this is
Funny.
just one part of it. The other part of it is what happens if you are going to let the people know in advance that you are going to check their answers against a sample of technical data. So it's not like I'm going to question every reply that you gave me, but if I'm going to ask you about your kids, they are the brightest and the most beautiful and everything is fine. But if I'm going to tell you, I'm going to look at a sample of their math tests.
Yeah.
Can you give me an estimate how their scores are, more or less?
You'd be more accurate.
You'll be probably rather accurate. So actually, by the fact that you know that you might be validated, I increased your honesty.
Do you think that, in some sense, is a foundational principle, like in third party, that, you know, ask but verify, or something? There's probably something foundational there that
Yes.
that any type of interaction with a third party needs to be surrounded by the specter that you're doing some data validation. Am I saying that right?
I believe so. If you compare it, for example, to healthcare insurance,
Yeah.
and if you're within the bracket of what is expected on your report,
Right.
then fine.
Yeah.
But you know that if something is a bit off, you'll be asked to visit a doctor, or they'll send one for you, you know.
Right.
And the minute you're aware that this may happen, it helps you to be honest.
Yeah.
And we need to help our vendors to be honest. And the way to do it is not by intimidating or threatening or legal language, but to share with them, this is very important for us because you're getting something out of it. We are helping you by remediation recommendation, by showing you the financial impact you're faced with in your business, not on our business. This is a service that you're getting of doing business with us. So this must be a win-win situation, not trying to catch them because they are a partner. But most partners are focused on their business and not on cybersecurity, and justly so. So by becoming partners and educators and giving them some education even as to how they can manage their own risk, how can they reduce their own maybe expenditures on cybersecurity and get the better bang for the buck, it becomes the real ecosystem that we really need to do in order to do business in these days.
You think if companies do this, things will get better? Third party?
I think that the entire ecosystem will get better.
Yeah.
I think that it needs to be done on a
Because your third party has third parties, and it cascades.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And if you look at the latest discussions of fourth party,
Yeah.
like that breach that was in Australia in the aviation industry, he was already a third party of a third
Yeah.
party. And
That's what I mean. It sort of cascades around.
So we need to create an ambience of something that is manageable. If you're trying to answer all the 2,000 characteristics of the NIST 853 or the new one, or you want to abide with every element of the GDPR, I don't think there are too many.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Too much. But if you have some critical guidelines, how to handle it, and one of your biggest partners is helping you to go through it, then the overall investment goes down. And the outcome to the end player, which is at the end of the day, you and me.
Yeah.
We're the guys who are eating the hamburgers in the street or drinking the Coke. We need to get good coverage and good practice of our vendors. So this is the way we address it. I believe that the biggest thing in this world is to look at who can manage the third party for you. Because this is not the essence of the industry. The essence of every business is to provide you good beverages or legal advice or do your accounting books. Mm-hmm. They need to focus on that. You don't want them to focus on the complexities of third party. So I think there is a huge market today for small, mid-sized, large players who can handle the third party for the rest of the market using the CRSA platform like ours, the rapid self-assessment platforms. And one last thing, it all needs to be based on relevant information, relevant intelligence. If you are just asking to what extent you have a great, I don't know, knock, nice. Will it move the needle if you are not dealing with internal threat or whatever?
Right, it's great. Hey, I'm so glad you're doing this work. I think it does raise the level of kind of security across the whole ecosystem. It's good to hear. You having fun being CEO of a cool tech company?
Yes.
You like that? You travel around a lot.
Yeah, these days we are doing some very interesting business around the world.
Wow.
Some of it is in India, which is emerging to be a very interesting platform.
Yeah.
They're doing fantastic work there in Europe, in East Europe as well. So I think the
world's become a smaller place. Right?
And flat.
Yeah.
And you can see that people are just learning also, by the way, the bad actors, learning very quickly from one side of the globe to another.
Right.
And so we see ourselves as part of one very vibrant community.
That's good. Well, keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for stopping by in New York City.
Thank you very much.
Anytime you're here, come by and share with us what you're working on.
I'd love that.
That's great. It's wonderful to see you. And we'll see you next time.